Gerald Huggins joins the show as we recap the East-West Shrine Bowl and the 3 HBCU players who are part of the event. It's clear that Sundata Anderson had the best week of practicing game, but what about Victor? What about Dankwah? Oh yeah, it's Locked On HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, am Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor and current contributing writer at USA Today's Saints Wire. Thank you for going on this journey with me, making Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day every day. And remember, just because the mic cuts off doesn't mean that the journey's over. Just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Starts with an S and ends with an S. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And now, if you're new to FanDuel, all you have to do is go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to make every moment more. But if you put down a $5 bet and win, you get an extra $200 back in bonus bets. It's all about one thing. The Shrine Bowl today, Sundata Anderson, Anem Dankwah, Mikey Victor. I got Coach Gerald Huggins, who was there with me in Frisco to break it down. So without further ado, let's get it. All right, Coach G, we was down there Frisco at the Shrine Bowl together, really watching these guys. So now I wanted to bring our conversations that we had on the field to the show, right? And I know one of the guys we were very excited about was Sundata Anderson, defensive end out of Grambling. You gave him an A. Before we start discussing how we felt about him, what made him get a grade of an A?
He was arguably the most consistent player, not just defensive player throughout the Shrine Bowl week. He came into it with a lot of question marks, just mainly about how would he look against, top competition or, higher competition, because, the LSU game didn't really go as planned. So me and him talked about that before. We had our conversation, and he was like, "Yo, Coach, I got you. You good? I got you." I said, "Okay." And he had me. He went out there. He showed his violence. He showed his ability to shed. He showed his quick hands. He showed the ability to bend. And he also showed his ability to drop into coverage. They had him as Sam Backer in a 4-3 kind of look. And it looked good. I mean, he's going to build fluidity in his hips and stuff like that. He wasn't really asked to do that, Grambling. This guy, people understand, this guy was playing inside the tackle at some points at Grambling because they ran a 3-3-5 throughout his career. So this guy is definitely well-rounded, versatile, and built to be an NFL football player.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, one of the things that my biggest takeaway was is that he looked really good amongst a group of players who looked really good. I don't know, because you watched everybody. I was a little bit more specific and specify where I was looking at, but I looked at a lot of groups briefly. There was no group that caught my eye more than the West team's defensive ends. I got it right this time. I was messing them up during the week, but the West team's defensive ends looked really good. Yes. And Sundata Anderson was not overshadowed in a bit. Matter of fact, I would say he stood out more than the other ones did. In NFL Network, on the broadcast, I know you were there. I was at home watching it, but on the broadcast, NFL Network actually labeled Anderson the impact player coming into the game. That just spoke volumes of where he was, being a small school guy to being the impact player against some guys who were there at UCLA, USC, and they all looked good. It was like a group of beautiful women, right? You got an average woman, she can look good amongst some lesser looking people, but you got Kelly Rowland and Beyonce standing next to each other. You know what I'm saying? It looked really good.
Yeah, it's always going to be Kelly over Beyonce.
I know you don't listen to J. Cole, but you know what I'm saying? Act like two legends can't coexist now. Hold on now. We ain't doing that today. I love me some Kelly, though. I love me some Kelly and some Beyonce. I can't pick between the two.
I can. It's Kelly.
I can't pick. I'll let you do that. I can't pick between the two. I can't. I ain't gonna lie. I can't. What? I can't pick between Kelly and Beyonce, man.
Why?
It's a tie.
It's not a tie.
This is about Sundata Anderson. We are about to talk about Kelly because we can really go and talk about Kelly and Beyonce for a while, right? All right, but we're not doing
this. I'm gonna give you one line, Kelly.
For sure. I'm with you. I love Kelly. But well, okay. Anyway, he stood out, right? And then I'll tell you one of the things that really got me is his ability to process information extremely quickly. I won't divulge what your conversation was, but you told me about a conversation you had with him. That conversation was after practice 1. Practice 2, he implemented everything. This is by you, right? You look at day 1 of trying to drop. It didn't look good. It didn't look good because he had never done it before. Dropping the coverage, that is, right? So it didn't look good. Days 2 and 3, it looked a little better. You could still tell he had never done it before, but there was a noticeable improvement. And I'll use this last example. In the game, he was going against whoever the Michigan offensive tackle was. And I thought he was losing that battle at the beginning. And then you saw as time went on, he began to clearly win the battle, almost as if he figured him out mid-game and knew exactly what to do. I thought his ability to process information that was put in front of him and either solve an issue or improve on whatever a technique was probably the most impressive thing that I had from Anderson this weekend or this week.
Yeah, no, I definitely can agree to that. A good edge rusher is all about deception, and they set you up. So, yeah, you might have got me on this first one, but little do you know, I'm just setting you up for something 3-4 plays later, maybe even 5 plays later, something on down the line. That's why I always love to compare playing defensive line edge rusher to being a mixed martial artist. I'm setting you up. Okay, I'm keep throwing this jab, and you're gonna keep putting the head this way, and I'm gonna come with a kick. Right as soon as you drop that head this way, I'm gonna come with a kick. It's all about deception and setting somebody else. So that's how I look when I look at Sundiata play. He is so technical. You know, he's more technical than I might have given him credit for. I like his hand. So we had a conversation at the practice one day. You know, I'm a defensive line coach. So I'm just looking at something like, come here. You know what I'm saying? So, and it's little things. Like he has like an 80-inch wings, like 33 or 34-inch arm. So I mean, he has the length and he has the arm. He has the arm to be able to do whatever he wants. And I just like how violent he was. And I like how every time there's a tight end that line against him, the tight end looked overmatched. Let
me say this real quick because we are focusing a lot on the pass rush. I thought where he first caught my eye was day 1 inside run portion. He looked really good against the run on those days. And mind you, he came in at 240 pounds and was going against offensive linemen. That's not easy.
It's because he didn't eat. He's really walking around 245. But
even at 245, that's still not the biggest defensive.
He's gonna throw all his weight around. And he's just tenacious and he has a motor. Like eventually you just get tired of blocking someone like that. Eventually, like when you just have someone that's just always moving, trying to get away from you, punching you, scratching you, clawing you, you're just like, you know what? All right, man. You know, that's how it is trying to block Sundiata. You might get him at first. Eventually he's gonna wear you down. He's like I guess it's like the equivalent of being a power back on the edge. Like he's gonna get you at some point. And the thing about him, his sack numbers weren't high, but that's why people have to watch. He had a lot of hurries, a lot of quarterback hits. It's all combined. All right. He had a lot of pressures. He was like one of the top. Like if some people don't like PFF, whatever, but it helps me with certain things where it comes to like, he was one of the toughest people to block in the pass rush game because I think he was like top 10 in top 10 in the pressures. And he only had 5.5 sacks, and he's top 10 in pressures.
Yeah,
that's big to me. So he had a very overall, really just a really great week. I gave him an A. I had to go. It was just, I don't believe anything is perfect, so that's why he didn't get an A+. But he got an A.
He looked great. He looked great. Shout out to Kelly Rowland.
There you go, my man. That's what I'm talking about. See, you smart. I knew you was smart, brother.
That's what. Anyway. Let's move forward, and we're gonna stay in the trenches, but we're gonna go to the other side on the offensive line portion and look at Anem Dankwah, because I think that Dankwah actually represents an interesting question about all pre-draft bowls. And I'll ask you about that as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now, I don't know what you're doing for the big game. It's Sunday. The Super Bowl is Super Bowl Sunday. Everybody has their own little rituals. Everybody has their own little thing that they do. Me, I'm probably going to sit down with some good food, have me some good snacks. I don't think I'm going to be with nobody but my family. And I'm going to see what's going on FanDuel. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Isaiah Pacheco, Brock Purdy, Fred Warner, Brandon Ayuk. There's so many stars who are involved in these games that I want to know what you think gonna happen. George Kittle gonna score a touchdown. Isaiah Pacheco gonna score a touchdown. Brock Purdy gonna score 3 touchdowns through the air. Let's see. What about Patrick Mahomes? Is he going to throw a touchdown to Travis Kelce? Is Isaiah Pacheco going to be able to get through that strong San Francisco 49er defense? We saw them be susceptible to being ran on. There's so many things. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. And when you do, if you're new to FanDuel, you'll get $200 back in bonus bets if you put down $5 and win. So go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to make every moment more. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. Also, don't forget, when I'm done, when Coach G is done, make sure you're checking out Locked On Sports Today, the first of its kind, 24/7, all day, everyday sports network on YouTube. Now, we've looked at Sundata Anderson. Absolute stud. He looked amazing this week in practice. Now let's look at the other side. And we saw this man block Anderson a couple of times. And I'm looking at Howard offensive tackle Anem Dankwah. You gave him a C in the grading, right? So let's make sure I got that right. Yes, you gave Dankwah a C. What led to his grade and ended up actually being the lowest of the 3 who were at the Shrine Bowl, excuse me?
Biggest thing with Anem, well, he got points obviously just from the measurables. I mean, rare size, 6'8" or 6'7" and change, 300. He weighed in at 362 pounds. He had an 86-inch wing, 34 or 35-inch arm. So he just when you see him, you're just like, oh yeah. So you're gonna get, and that's why I was trying to explain to people, you go for a prototype or a rare prototype, because you feel like you could work on that. And that's what it is about Anem. Anem is a high developmental prospect. Okay. I know people, because he got the combine invite, he's getting a lot of accolades. People were like, well, that means he needs it. No, he's a high developmental prospect. Okay. Which means there's going to be a team that's going to come around day 3 and say, listen, we have a 6'8", 360-pound guy that we could get down to probably 345, maybe 340. He might run around 330. Work on his feet, work on his foot quickness, work on his range, on his kick step, working on just his basic technique stuff, and work on his finishing. And now we have us a bona fide starter.
Yeah.
For a day 3 pick. So I'm sorry, my short offensive tackles at a 6'2", currently playing the FCS. There's a way things work. And most of the time people are willing to stand on the table for a guy that fits a certain prototype or measurable, or has a rare size in comparison to the average what a prototype. So for Anem, there were things that me and him talked about just technique wise that he still has to work on. But people that watch him knew this. So that's why, I gave him a C. I mean, he competed. He didn't quit, head didn't drop. We talked. He fought every day. Okay. He fought out there. He went back and forth. There's a couple times he got beat. Then he'll come back and get this guy. Then in the run fits, he would knock people off the ball. Sometimes he battled. Okay. Everybody had their lumps throughout the week. Even Sonny had a couple lumps, but he just seemed his highs were just way higher. So Sonny has like a really high floor and a really high ceiling. Anem is kind of like interesting floor, but the ceiling is extremely high.
I can see that.
That's why I gave him a C. It's not a bad thing. It's just like I knew you had things to work on. I just wanted to see if you look like you belong, and he looked like he belonged.
How I felt was I thought he looked better each day, but I didn't think he jumped out. That was the way that I would look at his 3 day. Let's see, Saturday, Sunday. He was there Monday too. Yeah, so he was there for 3. And actually, before I even get into that, let's bring it back to the question I was referencing right before the break. There's a conversation amongst scouts. I've been around the Senior Bowl one time. I didn't go, but I was there, and when the HBCU Combine was in Mobile, I was there, right? Then I've been at the Shrine Bowl this year. I've heard the conversations that scouts have about practice versus the game. Dankwah played in the 3 or participated in the 3 padded practices and then sat out the walkthrough and then sat out the game. I didn't see him in the game. Make sure I didn't miss him, right?
No, he didn't. No.
Okay. What does this mean? Practice versus games, right? Does not participating in the game hurt Dankwah?
No, not in my opinion.
I didn't think so either.
No, it's not. For the most part, he practiced all the padded practices. That's what most of the scouts were there. I know on a selfish note, of course, I would have loved them seeing play in the game, but I also understand there's a business aspect to everything, and he has to prepare for the combine. So him and his team, they came together, and they made a decision, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
I have no issue. There are people who didn't. There are people who didn't play in the game, like the Bowl and Shrine Bowl. Like they're players, the top. Like I know in the Senior Bowl, like I know that a few top players, they had a good week. I mean, good couple days, and it was like, well, I showed you what I can do, and now I gotta get ready for the combine. So I'm not mad at it, And then sometimes the games may help a bit. I think the games may have helped other players. Like I know, like Josh Cephas from UTSA, he was having a good week, and the game kind of just helped him even more. And Frank Gore, I mean, I think the game helped him as well. So
the game definitely helped him. Yeah, this ain't locked on everybody, but
no,
Frank Gore Jr. looked really good in that first half. So I was kind of mad they didn't get him in the second half so he could hit 100 yards. But he looked good. He looked good in that first half.
I understand, but yeah, it's just it's not. I don't want people to overthink it, but people are gonna do whatever they want. So I just say, listen, he practiced padded days. He got in. He did what he's supposed to do. Now he has to prepare for the combine. He's still trying to lose weight. He's still trying to do the other. So he just needs to focus, and he's fine.
And I'll say this: people don't get to see the practice, so he doesn't play in the game. They just don't get to see him. Like if you don't play in the game, the only time they get to see you is one-on-ones, and then if you like one-on-one, that's really all they get to see. So a lot of people don't get to see the games, or don't get to see the practice. So that's probably where a lot of that comes from. I'll say one of my bigger things about him was I listened to Steve Smith speak about his conversations with players and some of their difficulties with balancing how they have been taught throughout their collegiate career, and then also how they've been taught over these past couple of days. And you were there when I was talking to Dankwah, and I felt as if he may have also struggled with that, specifically when you look at his unique body type. He has to operate a certain kind of way, and a lot of people aren't used to that. So he's getting techniques that he's been like, I know that doesn't work for me, but then he tries to do it. And I think that kind of hindered him at times during practice.
I mean, I'm fine with you trying something new. You have to be able to be coachable. There's certain situations, and as a football player, where your coach is teaching you something that is probably correct. It's probably the right way to do it. But sometimes, I always I tell the kids, try my technique. Do your best to do my technique. If it truly just does not feel comfortable, then we're going to find a way to fine tune what you're able to do. So I know certain players can't do certain moves. So let's find what moves you could do. And now we're gonna attack those moves and make it better. There's certain techniques, like we split in the double team. Some people do the drop knee technique. Some people push pull on their key. Some people attack the guy that they know is coming more. So there's other ways to go explain it,
Yeah.
but it's just saying there's different techniques to everything. So like who's saying the drop knee versus the natural split what's the difference? So I mean, some people do a thing called cross screw. It's of course not cross screw, corkscrew. It's crazy. It's a beautiful technique though. But as long as it works, that's what I care about. I just want something that works for a knee. So whatever that is that works, whatever they can combine to kind of find a skill set that works for a 6'8", 360-pound offensive tackle, that's what needs to be done. So they will figure that out, whatever team decides they're going to utilize him as a high developmental pick.
Yeah.
And that's what we just going to have to be okay with that.
Yeah, and he's got great size. It's one of the few times in a long time that I actually felt short. Even though I'm not super tall, we went through this over the week, but like his size is ridiculous, and it's one of those things where 6'7", 6'8", his size will be attractive to somebody, and you can guarantee that. It's just about maximizing it. Now, let's get into one of the guys that I would say we talk about Mikey Victor a little bit less than Sundata Anderson over our time in Frisco. So now let's bring that conversation with a twist. That conversation with a twist on to Locked On HBCU. Today's episode of Locked On HBCU is brought to you by eBay Motors. It don't matter what you're trying to do to your car, eBay Motors has the part for you. All you have to do is put your car into the My Garage section, and they'll go ahead and fit whatever you need. So say you need an alternator, say you need a carbonator, say you need just something simple like an air filter. It'd be something easy as that. They have everything on there. Maybe you want to do some LED lights to be able to fix up your ride. They have everything on there, and it's guaranteed to fit. Go to ebaymotors.com. It's guaranteed to fit. That's only applying to U.S. customers. But if you don't, or if the part doesn't fit, you can return it, get your money back, and you'll get the part that fits for you. But that's extremely rare that it even comes down to that. So go to ebaymotors.com, be able to fix up your ride or die, get from point A to point B in style. All you have to do is go to ebaymotors.com. That's ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. As we're wrapping up today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day, making it all the way to segment 3, and I thank you 2 times for that. You kicking it with me, Darian Gray, aka the Mouth of the South, and my guy, Coach G, Gerald Huggins. We have one more HBCU product to discuss who was at the East-West Shrine Bowl, and that was Alabama State defensive back Mikey Victor. You gave him a B+. All right, so that's not that far from Sundiata. Not that far from Sundiata. How do we get to the B+?
Well, here we go. Measurables. There we go. 6'3", 212 pounds at corner. So that's the eye test. Check. There. Easy. Movement. He looked very smooth. He looked better than he did at the Hula Bowl. At the Hula Bowl, I feel like his legs looked a little heavy. But then he looked a little more loose. He looked fluid. He's moving well, as I'll continue to say. There was some twitch there too. That with those big guys, they're not always the most twitchy. But there's also a smoothness to him when he plays. Like sometimes when he just jumps up in the air, he just looks like a fairy. He's just floating. And it's like you see the wide receiver background, you see the basketball background. Ball skills are spectacular for someone that's a cornerback. Really good hands. And he was so smart. Like he knows his limitations. That's why I couldn't give him A because it's just that end breaking, but that's stuff you could work on. But stuff end breaking will get him. Sometimes a little more twitchier receivers, like slot, little small slot kind of guys, could get him on end breaking routes. But anything going deep or anything going out breaking, that's pretty much done. Mikey Victor pretty much eliminates most of your route tree. And that's why I was so high on him. Because even when it was a drill where they were just throwing from 20 on in, like if you run a fade ball on him, you have to be perfect, a perfect throw. Because you have a wide receiver, ex-wide receiver, ex-basketball player is probably going to jump out 39 inches. And he has great hands. And he's already 6'3" with an 80-inch wingspan at corner. So the ball you have to throw is has to be perfect. And I'm just watching multiple players choose to do these go routes on him. And he waited, he was patient, and he always leaned and turned his head. As soon as he saw the receiver show the hands, he was turning his head. And now he's trying to go for the ball. They didn't throw a lot to him in like a lot of team and 7-on-7 stuff. So for me, just really looking at him with the reps that he did have, just watching him and just see if he's in phase. And his eyes are so. I might have to change my report. Like I put very good eyes. I mean, the kid might have outstanding pushing rare. Like his ability to feel in zone coverage is just. It was one play during the game where they were in. What were they in? Had to be in cover 3, and there was the one receiver he broke on an out route, but he knows that he had the outside linebacker with the curl flat, and he just sat. But he also saw this skinny post from the backside, and he was able to track that skinny post and go right under. We went right under Josh Sievers. And I'm just like, yo, like that's just the eyes are there, and he just saw it, and he was able to break on it. And then I saw him break against the run. Like he was showing good runs. Like he was getting off. Receivers couldn't really block him, and then he has length. So you're not gonna get on him. It's rare, and he's strong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He didn't show me. There's nothing he did this week that I didn't already know. But I will say he looked way better, and when you watch him in person than watch him on film. This kid, and I'm looking eye to eye to a corner, so I'm already like, yeah. Like there were scouts that came there just for Mikey.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and I'm, he's another one. Like I'll stay on the show, man. Like I could get choked up. You know what I mean? Because I wanted like to see Mikey and Sonny and Anim, like kids I've been watching for 2+ years. Anim and Dankwah, Anim and Sonny a little more, but watching for 2 years. And Mikey was a kid that, I was like, his junior year was a little, kind of like a newborn baby deer. Like he just saw this really tall corner, but he didn't really know how to utilize his body. But then I'll give it to Coach James over there, Alabama State. One thing he can do, boy, he can coach him some. He can coach him some DBs now. Definitely some point. Like he has about to be 4 professional football players in the past 2 years. He already has Keenan Isaac on the Bucs. He has Kel Jackson, and he has Chauncey Moore playing in the CFL. They just got signed, and it looks like Mikey's gonna be the next one. And he said Mikey was the best one he had. And he has more coming. Like he has another, and they're all tall, except for maybe Kale. But they're all.
That's the thing. That's the thing. They like them tall corners. We've talked so much, man, but I think that this is not a question. It was going to be a question, but I think that you detailed what you were able to see well enough to where I don't need to ask. But one of my struggles, and we talked about this before, I knew I was going to defer to you more when it came to Victor. I just felt like I didn't see enough reps. That was my thing. And we've talked about it. You have a scout's eye, so you don't need as many reps as I do. But man, it was so frustrating being there for him. And he was the only HBCU player on his team, right? Like you had Dankwah and Anderson. And so if Anderson wasn't getting reps, I could just went to watch Dankwah. Wow. With Victor, I had to watch Victor not get reps. It was frustrating to watch, right? But I'll say this, his ability to track deep balls, his ability to track routes 15, 20 yards down the field, it worked for him because it was what he was primarily asked to do. And I'll just repeat something that I said last week. If I have limited reps and you allow me to do the thing that I do best, I'll be okay with that. Because if I only get 5 things or 5 reps in every single one, or 4 out of the 5 are go balls, and I know nobody's getting me on that, and they tried him quite a bit on go balls for some reason, maybe they didn't read the scouting report, maybe that's just what it was, the design in one-on-ones. That was his specialty, and he went ahead and disrupted it. So despite him not getting a lot of reps, somebody like you was able to see that. You had scouts out there who also view things like you and should be able to see things quick enough like you do, who will also be able to see that. I thought that I have nothing else to add when it comes to Victor on what you said. Great eyes, zone responsibility. You have one thing you want to add?
Yeah, one thing.
Go ahead.
He wasn't getting a lot of reps, but this is how I know he's going to be a good professional football player. He's right behind the guys. He's locked in every second. They were doing certain drills. You just saw him behind them. They were in a little walkthroughs, doing their team scale periods, or just going through the defense. He's right. He lines up maybe 10, 15 yards behind the guy that's in front of him, and he's going through the same motions. That's a pro. So, yeah, he didn't get a lot of reps. But you just look at the stuff he's doing. He didn't mope. He didn't grope. He didn't pout. He wasn't upset. And when he called his name, he's out there. His helmet already on before he get on the field. Ready. So he didn't get the reps, but he did in the same way. And people see things like that. That is a pro. Like the 3 kids we have there are pros. They interview like pros. They walked around like pros. They conduct themselves like pros. Those are generally 3 of the best kids football players that I've ever had a conversation with. Is like just with scouting. I had a really good group anyway. I had the West linebackers and defensive line. So I was blessed with just a group of great kids. So
the West linebackers work.
Yeah. Oh, nah. Listen, those boy, definitely my. Hey man, listen.
It was good.
Listen, Darius from UCLA. That first tackle when he just knocked. Oh, that first one, boy, he laid the bone. But he's a one. I know it's not HBCU, but he's one of those that just really his stock went because he played out his mind during the whole week.
Bring him to New Orleans. I'll say that, and I will end this with a quote from you. It's one of your tweets, right? You said when HBCU players, and honestly, I don't think this was coming from the best place, but this is the tweet, and it applies positively here. When HBCU athletes go to these all-star games, they're holding the weight of all HBCU football on their backs. They can't afford to look average when performing against Power 4 and G5 talents. Those invites will slowly start to dwindle. #DraftHBCU players. Like I said, I don't think it came from the best place positively, because I think I know where it came from. We're not going to talk about it. But somebody asked you about the Shrine Bowl, and you said how those 3 guys did it. So we'll end it with that. The 3 players who are at the East-West Shrine Bowl in Frisco, they achieved what all small school and HBCU players intend to achieve through these events. So in the meantime, between time, our Twitters are down there, right? You got me at South Exclusives. You got Gerald Huggins at Coach_Huggins Jr. Go ahead and follow us, catch up. We'll be getting into draft talk very, very soon. But in the meantime, in between time, if you're looking for me, you can find me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Take care. Stay blessed. Peace.